Chapter 6. London. The journey from my hometown to London took about 5 hours. When the stagecoach with 4 horses finally reached Cheapside, it was already past noon. I got off on a gloomy street in front of Mr. Jagger's office. When I asked for him, the clerk said he was in court. He looked at me and asked if I was Mr. Pip. I nodded, and he told me to wait in an inner room. Soon Mr. Jaggers returned and took me to his room. While standing and eating lunch, he explained the arrangements. I was to stay at Barnard's Inn in young Mr. Pocket's room, where a bed had already been prepared for me. On Monday, Mr. Pocket would take me to his father's house. Mr. Jaggers and Barnard's Inn was nearby, and that his clerk, Wemmick, could walk me there if I pleased. Walking with Mr. Wemmick, I found him to be a very dry man, with small, sharp black eyes and thin lips. He seemed to know London well. When we arrived, I felt downhearted. Barnard's Inn was a collection of shabby, broken-down buildings, squeezed together in a dreary little square that resembled a graveyard. The trees and sparrows there seemed just as miserable. I waited about half an hour before a boy my size appeared, holding paper bags under each arm. "Mr. Pip?" he asked. "Mr. Pocket," I replied. "Oh dear, I expected you by the midday coach, so I went to Covent Garden Market to get some good fruit for you," he said. I asked if I could hold the bags as he opened the door. "Please, let me lead you in," he said. He told me his father thought I would enjoy staying with him through Sunday more than with his father, and he would be happy to show me around London. "You won't find the food bad. It is supplied by the coffee house at your expense. Our lodgings are not splendid, and I have to earn my own bread." As we looked at each other, we both recognized something. "Lord bless me," he said, "you are the prowling boy." "And you," I said, "are the pale young gentleman." The idea that's you, I echoed, and we burst into laughter. We shook hands good-humouredly and laughed again. From his speech I found out his name was Herbert. "You hadn't come into your fortune at that time," he said. "No," said I. "I was on the lookout for good fortune then. Miss Havisham had sent for me to see if she could take a fancy to me, but she couldn't and didn't. If this trial visit had worked out, I would have been provided for and affianced to Estella." "How did you bear the disappointment?" I asked. "I didn't care much for it. Miss Havisham is a real Tartar," he said. "The girl Estella is cold, proud, and unpredictable, raised by Miss Havisham to take revenge on all men." "What relation is she to Miss Havisham?" "None," he said, "only adopted." We sat down to dinner, and he suggested that I change my name from Pip to Handel the musician, after a charming piece composed by him, called The Harmonious Blacksmith. I liked the idea. Herbert was very open, so I told him my story too. I explained that I had been raised a blacksmith and didn't know the ways of polite society, and asked if he'd correct me when I slipped up. He gladly agreed. And during dinner he gave me helpful tips. "Now about Miss Havisham," he began. "She was spoiled as a child. Her mother died when she was a baby, and her rich, proud father gave her everything. She had a half-brother, but he grew up wild and irresponsible, so their father disinherited him. Still, on his deathbed, the old man softened and left him some money." Herbert paused to correct how I held my wine-glass, then went on. "The half-brother wasted his inheritance. He and Miss Havisham didn't get along. Around then, a man came along, professing love for her. My father didn't trust him, said he wasn't a true gentleman. But Miss Havisham fell in love with him. He played with her feelings, tricked her out of large amounts of money, and convinced her to buy her brother's share of the brewery, saying he'd manage it once they were married. My father warned her about him, and she threw him out of the house. He never came back. Still, the wedding day was set, the dress and honeymoon planned, guests invited, but the groom never showed up. He sent a letter. which she received at 20 minutes to 9, said I. Exactly, and from that moment on she stopped all the clocks. She became ill, shut herself in, and never saw daylight again. That's the whole story? That's all I know. People think her brother and the man worked together. It was a conspiracy and they split the profits. What became of the two men afterwards, I asked. He could have married her and got all the property. He may have been married already. It was just a half-brother scheme, said Herbert. The two men were totally ruined. When was Estella adopted? He shrugged his shoulders. She is no relation, but there has always been an Estella, since I have heard of Miss Havisham. Now all that I know about Miss Havisham, you know. I fully believe you, I said. So, no rivalry between us. We were sociable, and I asked him what he was. He replied, a capitalist, an insurer of ships in the city. He wanted to buy some life insurance shares, do a little mining and trade in the East Indies for silks and shawls, spices, drugs, dyes, and wool. I wondered, and began to think they were greater expectations than my own. Herbert added, I also want to trade with the West Indies for sugar, tobacco, and rum, and to Ceylon for elephants' tusks. But you'll need many ships, said I. A perfect fleet, said he. Impressed by the magnificence of these transactions, I asked him where the ships he insured mostly traded to at present. I haven't begun insuring yet, he replied. I'm just observing the market. I'm in counting house, but they don't pay me. I have to support myself. I said nothing. And when the time comes, said Herbert, I'll find my opening, strike, make my fortune, and then invest it. Having already made his fortune in his mind helped him to bear his poverty. I was grateful to him for not being proud. It was evident that he had nothing in hand and suffered the blows of fate as he had suffered mine, then at Miss Havisham's. Herbert had a kind manner, and we became fast friends. We went to the theatre that evening, then to Westminster Abbey the next day, and later strolled through the parks. Seeing the horses, I wondered who shoed them, and wished it were Joe. On Monday, Herbert and I took the coach to Hammersmith, where we arrived mid-afternoon. Mr. Matthew Pocket was a young-looking man with a rather perplexed expression and grey hair. His manners seemed very natural and unaffected. I learned from Herbert that he had been educated at Harrow and at Cambridge, and had distinguished himself. But he married young, which hurt his career, and now tutored young men. I was shown my room, which was pleasant and comfortably furnished. I was introduced to two other students, Bentley Drummle and Startop. Drummle seemed older and Startop younger than me. It occurred to me that if I could retain my rooms in Barnard's Inn, my life would be agreeably varied, while my manners would be improved in Herbert's company. Mr. Pocket had no objection to this arrangement, so with Herbert to teach me genteel manners and Wemmick to show me round London, my education began with Mr. Matthew Pocket. One day I received a letter from Betty. My dear Pip, I write this by request of Mr. Gargery to let you know that he is going to London and will be glad if allowed to see you. He will call at the Barnard's Hotel Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Your poor sister is much the same as when you left. We talk of you in the kitchen every night, and wonder what you are saying and doing. Excuse the liberty for love of all times. No more, dear Mr. Pip. Your affectionate servant, Biddy. Let me confess, I was not looking forward to Joe's coming with pleasure. Though I owed him much, I felt he wouldn't fit in here and might embarrass me. He finally arrived, his face glowing, honest as ever. He set his hat carefully on the floor between us and shook both my hands up and down like a pump. I'm glad to see you, Joe. Give me your hat. But Joe, taking it up carefully, like a bird's nest with eggs in it, refused to part with it and kept standing most uncomfortably. You have grown so big and are dressed so like the gentlefolks that you are an honor to your king and country. And you, Joe, look wonderfully well. Thank God, said Joe, and gave me news of home, but kept holding his hat just the same. A ghost-seeing effect in Joe's countenance told me that Herbert had entered, so I presented Joe to Herbert, but Joe backed away from Herbert's outstretched hand and held his hat tighter. Joe looked around nervously and behaved so awkwardly. He was relieved when Herbert left us. I felt impatient with him, and he worsened the case by his next sentence. "We two being alone, sir," began Joe. "Joe," I said in irritation, "how can you call me sir?" He looked at me sadly. "We're being alone now," said Joe, "and I do not have much time. I came to be useful. At the Jolly Bargeman, Mr. Pumblechook said Miss Havisham wanted to speak to you." "Miss Havisham, Joe?" "Go on, please." "Yes," said Joe, "I visited her. She said Estella's come home and would be glad to see you." My face was afire as I looked at Joe. Did Joe deliver this message just to spare me the shame of a letter? "Biddy," Joe said, "felt that you would be glad to get this message by word of mouth. Pip, I wish you well always and hope you go to greater heights." "But you are not going now, Joe?" "Yes," said Joe, "I am." "But you are coming back to dinner, Joe?" "No, I am not," said Joe. Our eyes met and took my hand and said, "Pip, old chap, life is full of partings welded together. These separations must happen. If anything went wrong today, it's my fault. You and I are not two figures to be seen together in London. It is not that I am proud, but I want to be right. You won't see me in clothes like this again. I am wrong in these clothes. I am wrong out of the forge, the kitchen, and the marshes. You won't find half so much fault with me if you think of me in my forged dress and with my hammer. I am awfully dull, but I've managed to say something right at least. So God bless you, dear old Pip. God bless you." I was not mistaken that he had a simple dignity about him. He touched me gently on the forehead and was gone. As soon as I could recover, I hurried after him, but he was gone.